Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Book Clubs Across Borders session with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Today, we're going to be discussing two books, The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini and The Booksellers of Kabul. Both of these books are very interesting and create a very good parallel narrative. And rather than discussing them separately, like I had thought earlier, I think we can actually overlap them. So we can take our learnings from both books and take those forward, like as in, okay, what did we learn from The Kite Runner and what is the Booksellers of Kabul telling us? Because both of these books are situated in Afghanistan at approximately the same timeline. One of the book talks about an Afghan individual who is trying to come to terms with the changes in the structure around them. Like the Kite Runner basically talks about the Soviet invasion into Afghanistan, how it impacts the life of a family, and what is the kite symbolizing for the child as he's growing older. So it's the story of it's a personal narrative of an individual who experiences invasion, refugee crisis, resettlement, and tries to come to terms with a evolution in their own identity as circumstances in their lives unfold. The other book is a Norwegian author who tries to make the rest of the world understand the dilemma of foreign invasion and how it impacts an already existing society. So it's not just about the news as it's being covered by the media in terms of war, but it is the upset that is caused to individuals who are experiencing these unsettling times. And she uses the story of a bookseller who she comes and lives with, and she tries to understand what has been happening to the family as the circumstances around them change. Again, war, along with instability, brings poverty, it brings fear, and it brings a structural change in the way societies function. And that is impacted across all spheres of the society. But here we see it manifested in the stories of a person who is a bookseller. What is the relevance of using this particular angle to understand this is something that is very, very poignant. And I would love to have your opinions on both of these books because one of them is written by an Afghan and the other is by a foreigner who's trying to understand the Afghan society. So while you were reading these books, what were the thoughts and ideas that came to your head? I'm just going to be quickly breaking down how we're going to take this session because we have 1 hour and we have two books. First, I'm going to give the mic over to Kabul and ask each and every one of you to share your thoughts on the two books that you read. Then we will have a little discussion on your thoughts, and after that, I have some really fun summaries of the books from your friends in Pakistan who cannot join us because of COVID circumstances and um, unusual, limitations that have become part of the whole COVID, dilemma. And I will share their thoughts with you, and then we will talk about what they thought and what your take home from that was. So, Kabul, over to you.
Okay, Alia. So we did discuss the first book, which was Book Center of Kabul, among ourselves. We talked about it a lot. Should we start with the first one or the second one?
Whichever way, I would personally prefer if we could do a cross parallel, like discussion, take learnings from both books and talk about what we have learned from going through that literature in
Okay,
totality.
just give me
One,
1 minute so I can
G,
explain it. Okay.
sure.
Yeah, the first book. So they can see you.
Hi, Alia. I wish you fun. I want to say something about the book Summer of Kabul. Which was written about by S.N. Sirstock, I think. That was a very great book because it drew a real Afghan lifestyle, a real Afghan culture, and real Afghan society. It was a book who the author was searching about um, all parts of Afghan's lifestyle, about how they live in their house, how they treat with their family members, how are women living in Afghanistan, how are children living in Afghanistan, and the man who was selling books. I loved the one thing about him. I have forgotten his name. I don't I do not remember, but I loved one thing about him, that Sharif Khan, I think. He was a very brave man, and he never stopped selling books, although many times his books were all buried. And many times he was sent to prison. He was imprisoned for selling books. He was always, but he never gave up. I love this thing about him. And one thing I did not like about him was that the books were not influencing him. He was already reading books in jail while the Taliban took him to the jail. He said that he had a lot of time there to read about Persians literature, about Rumi, about many authors, but they were not influencing him. He was interested in Persian's culture, but he was someone who was not getting anything from the books. And I think if you read books and they really do not influence you, so it is better not to read them. And that's all my idea.
Alia, did you get what Wahida said?
Yes, Wahida, I completely agree with you on certain things, but not 100% on others. I agree that it's really sad that Sultan Khan reads all these amazing books, all this literature, especially dedicated towards peace, tolerance, acceptance, like Rumi and lots of other Persian authors. But it does not really influence the way he is looking at the world around him, right? He is reading it, he is comprehending it, but he is not applying it. But I wouldn't completely like disregard the impact of the literature that it would bring onto his life. I personally was empathetic and sympathetic towards him because he was living in times that he had not ever thought would he would witness as an Afghan. He was growing up, I mean, he grew up in a very tolerant, progressive Afghanistan. And suddenly, there was this foreign invasion and then Taliban, and everything that was normal was spun on its head. And everything that was acceptable was again suddenly not acceptable. So, again, like a third person trying to go into another's head and find complete closure in itself is problematic. And I mean, he might have been influenced by those books, but the circumstances were such that he could not take a stand on it, because he knew that if he were to disagree, the society at large was so intolerant that his otherness would have caused his head, to be put on the sphere. I mean, to be very, very blunt. And that could be one of the things that uh, was responsible for his very laid back or very unjudgmental stance on what was happening around him. Like as human beings, oftentimes we see things unfolding around us which we might not agree with. But because the forces that are bringing in those change are so strong that we feel almost helpless. And in that helplessness, we oftentimes give in to the perpetrators or to the more dominant forces. Maybe in our heart of hearts, we don't agree to them, but we at that moment in time feel that for the safety of our loved ones, for the protection of our family, it is more intelligent to do so. I mean, I would love for you to revisit this book at some point in your life and maybe think about Sultan Khan from that lens, because I am sure there are lots of people that you would be able to find in Afghanistan who will tell you that they were not happy with what was happening, but they could not do anything about it. So they were playing along, because, other than doing book clubs across borders, I have another career, which is collecting oral histories. I go and speak to people about historical events related to Pakistani history and the region. And a lot of times when I go and speak to people, I find out that their reflections are oftentimes a contrast to what their actions were. And this is something that, as human beings, when we evolve and we reflect, we understand. Because, you know, um, when you are in a crowd, it is very difficult to go against the tide. It takes a very special person to be able to do so. I'm not saying it's not possible. History has shown us these amazing examples of people who defied it, who defied the odds and ended up becoming something really special. But it is not everyone's destiny, or it is not everyone's cup of tea. It is a very difficult thing. So revisit Sultan Khan, because I know for a fact that you love to read. So I'm hoping that you will revisit this book at some point in your life, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the lane. And as your world perspective grows, you will end up not sympathizing per se, but being able to accept the differences and people's decisions to what we believe to be the accepted norm.
Alia, can we have our students also talk about the same thing?
Yes, please.
So first of all, I'm going to talk about it for a second, if that's not a problem, because we did discuss this book over with each other for I think 2 sessions, and they shared their opinions. I don't think if they're really being judgmental, but I think they're putting themselves in the shoes of the wife, or the daughter in some cases, or maybe the son. Like, what if you were, for example, in his wife's, shoes, right? What if you were in her place? How would you feel if your husband decided to, marry for a second time to someone who's much younger than you? So we did discuss this book with our students here, and I would love to ask one of the students who wants to share her opinion. It is Habiba, and she wants to talk. Just to check her voice, can you talk?
Okay, can you hear me?
A little louder if possible.
Can you hear me?
Good.
Habiba, if you please come and sit at the place where Mushtaba was sitting, the audio was really clear from that angle. Yeah.
Okay, I just give her 30 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now can you hear me? Okay, good. So, hello and good morning. I'm Habiba, and I want to talk about the bookseller of Kabul. Okay, it was really a good book, the best book that I have read in my events. So, I want to talk about Sultan. I really appreciate Sultan and his battles against the different regimes, and his fighting and hiding the books from the police, and let them out to the others, and finally going to prison for the books. And he was a man who had tried to save our culture, our art, and the culture of our country. And I realized that he was himself a living piece of Afghan culture and history. We really need these men in our culture because either saving the books or reading the books show our character. And reading the books, we just know who we are. And so at the end of my speaking, I want to say that all we can say to him is thank you because he really did a good job. That's
it?
yeah.
Okay. We are seeing you want to come across. Thank you, Habida. And now you're seeing one of the boys wants to talk. Let's hear one of the boys' perspective on this topic and see what Yossi thinks about this whole concept behind the books that are called.
Hello, it's Yasin, and good morning. I hope that you hear us and we hope to enjoy our session. Actually, the books a lot of Kabul started when Sultan Khan wanted to propose someone for himself, but I didn't disagree, about his proposal, and he did that proposal, and also the part that I disagree with Sultan Khan's was when he got married with Sharifa, with Sonia, and the Sonia was a little, a younger girl. She was about 16, and Sultan Khan was about maybe 50, I think, as I read the book. And when they got married, the Sultan Khan didn't allow the Sonia, that means his new wife, to lift a finger, just about they thought about the Sonia, not about Sharifa. And Sharifa would his previous wife, and it is so. But when we, I agreed with Sultan Khan to get a new wife. But the sad part was when he didn't want to Sharifa to talk with her, and he didn't. When he got married, he didn't care about Sharifa even. Sharifa made the cooks and made the beds and all the houseworks just Sharifa did, and Sonia didn't lift a finger because Sultan Khan didn't allow. And also it is heartbreaking for especially for all, and especially for the for women to see that her husband is not caring of her. And also the one thing that the women really need is about the caring, and we must care about them and to love them, and that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Yossi. Very good thoughts. Anyone else wants to discuss? Finish that? Nothing? Okay, I want you to think about the second book as well, the Kind Tracker, because we're going to talk about that as well. Okay? So, Alia, is there anything you want to say regarding my students' remarks?
Yes, so I really am very proud of the comments that Yasin made, because I wish more people thought like that. And I wish our society understands the trauma of and the pressure of inequality that exists. And I know that we justify the 4 marriages by saying that the Quran permits, but the Quran also says that you can take 4 if you can, but you must be just between them. And we know that you cannot be just, so it is better that you take 1. But we don't take the whole verse of the Holy Quran. We just take the verse that is feeding into our needs. And that is the clerics who are doing it. I mean, obviously, we are in no position to defy them because they are in power and we are not. But it is to them their own follies, and it is things that they will have to be answerable to God Almighty when they see Him. So we don't need to worry about that. But yes, we need to question societies that say it is okay for a 50-year-old man to marry a 16-year-old child and have relationships of matrimony amongst them. There is something almost indecent in this um, in this act, and we as society don't frown upon it, but we frown upon a girl who wants to put nail polish. So it's like, we really need to question what we have, what we say that society is permissible as society at large. You know what I mean? So it's like, we've forgotten the values of our own traditions, of our own customs. Like I said, if we go back in our history, both Afghan and Pakistani, there are so many amazing women who defied the norms, women who stood up for themselves, for others, for their own countries, women who were warriors, women who were politicians, women who were scientists, women who were authors, women who have constantly um, pushed the envelope. And that is something that we should never forget. So I am so glad that by reading books like these, our boys are trying to go inside the headspace of women in our region. So, like, I often have this debate that it is not the women who need to change as much as the men. So if you want societies to change, then stop trying to change the women, but educate the men more. Let them understand what what is happening, and let them understand it in the context of their own families. Like, if you were to ask a boy how his mother or his sister felt when a when his 50-year-old father married a 16-year-old girl who was younger than his sister, how did the sister feel, how did the mother feel, and is that something that you want your wife or your daughter to feel? you know Try to empathize with the question itself, and that is something that we as society really really need to work towards. And I am really happy that we are doing that. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal right now, but trust me when I say this, it really is. And it is these small things which will come together to create a big difference. So, Yasin, really proud of you, really, really proud of you. And keep thinking the way you're thinking, keep questioning, and do not ever take anything for a given. So, anybody else?
Um, Anyone else wants to talk about this topic? Rishna? No, nothing now. Our students are really shy. Yeah. It's just that they just had their school exams, and most of them are, for now, they're kind of in shock because of their exams, I think. And they somehow forgot about the first book because they were very busy with their school. But I think they are going to talk about the second book now, which is The Kite Runner. Is that
Yeah, should we give the students a little breather, and maybe I should play the videos that have come in from Pakistan? They just three, it'll take about 10 minutes. It'll give
Yes.
breathing room for the students, and then we can talk about the second book.
That would be wonderful. So can we actually see the videos or what? Are you going
Yeah.
to share it?
I'm
Okay.
going to share the screen.
Okay, good. I don't know how it works, but let's see.
Yeah, I'll just share it. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, good. She's sharing, her screen. So let's see if we can hear.
Hey everyone, this is Anam.
Guys, can you see and hear clearly?
Yes, we can see and we can also hear. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I'm just playing.
From Karachi. So talking about the book review of The Kite Runner, I think the book is amazing and I love to read the book again. There are a lot of different aspects that the book covers, but the most important ones are loyalty, friendship, brotherhood, regret, sorrow, and the most beautiful part was the spirituality. and I really love that. There are like a lot of different quotes that are mentioned in the book, but I would love to mention two of them which are like so close to my heart. There is a way to be good again. I think this quote is so optimist. This is so hopeful, empowering quote for me, because I'm a firm believer that there is the darkness cannot like stay forever, and there is always a light after dark. So this is like the most beautiful thing that I found in the book. The other one is the boy who won't stand for himself becomes a man who cannot stand for anything, and it carries a bit of philosophical way to confess that a person who cannot talk about or express his or her feeling becomes a person who cannot express anyone else, and that person cannot talk about others and the right that others deserves. So I do agree with that, and I do believe that while talking about your rights, you should be you shouldn't be like very soft or polite. You should be in a way that you feel, so other can understand that how do you feel, and this is like important to you, and this should be resolved. The most beautiful transformation was Amir's character, and that reminds me of an ayat from Quran Pak, which is وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى, and that says, and he found you lost and guided you. And initially his character was like lost, and then he found a way that there is God, there is someone who is like running this all system out, and that was so beautiful, and that hit me so hard. I would last words are for my fellows from Afghanistan, and that I would love to hear from them what they think about the book, and I would love to hear from that about their culture, about how they live, and how their society is. It would be so amazing to know about that. Thank you so much, everyone, and Allah Hafiz.
That was good, right?
Okay, now I'm playing another one.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Nimatullah Khan. I have been a part of book club from 6 months ago. I hope you all are good. I'm also good. The last book that we read is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hussaini. I also suggest you to keep yourself hydrated and take care of yourself, because in this pandemic your health is very important to your environment and to your families. If we discuss about the book is the message of the book is we should have to learn from our mistakes, because the whole book that I read in this, the main point is the family of Afghanistan make mistakes, but they learn from their mistakes and grow from their mistakes. The author Khalid Hussaini very brilliantly discuss the story of an Afghani refugee mm, who goes to California, America, but they return in Afghanistan. They also establish a very good plot about the kites festival. uh, they also discuss Hassan and Amir was very close to each other. They are very good friend. They also discuss the plots of Rahim Khan Baba, his father, his mother, and the situation that they have faced about Taliban and lots of problem that they have faced after after hearing that Rahim Khan was in his last breath. Amir came back from California. Mm, he 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 tried to save her Hassan's son Sanobar Hassan's son, sorry, Sorab who was in the refugee of Afghan Taliban, where he fight with where he fight with Afghan leader, and managed to save her managed to save Hassan's son. Thank you.
That was good.
Okay, I have just one more, and then we'll come back to Afghanistan.
Hello everyone, I'm Rafia from Karachi. So the part I love from the Kite Runner is when Amir realizes that he hasn't prayed for 15 years, and the last time he prayed was his father's funeral. So I think that was a really heart-wrenching moment, and at that point, like we all really loved that part basically. It brought me into tears, and it really gave me the goosebumps as well. While I was reading it, I realized that like all of us at some point realizes that we have regrets and all. So I got up after reading that part, and I prayed. And the basically why I'm sharing this with you is the reason that I want to share that I want to basically admire Khalid Hosseini for his writing, because it touched readers' heart, and it gave a very strong message. And the way he put everything together in the book, especially the ending, it was not really a happy ending, but it had hope. And I think the best thing a reader can, an author can do is he can end the book on a very happy note, or he can end the book on hope. So Khalid Hosseini ended the book on hope, and that was the best thing he has done in the book. Also, I really loved the example that Khalid Hosseini gave in the end, that a melting snowflake brings the news of spring. So that example was really perfect in Saurabh's case, and book was really connected to each and every part, and each and every part was really beautiful. One of my friend read the book before we read, and while I was reading it, I discussed it, and she said I felt really numb, and I didn't talk to anyone for 2 days after reading the book. So I think the basic thing I really wanted to share by this thing is that author gave a really strong message in the end, and all the readers felt really connected to the book. So yes, the book is really amazing, and I'm looking forward for the videos from Afghanistan. So looking forward to it.
All right. So that was some testimonies and messages that we had for our friends in Afghanistan from your friends in Pakistan. We can discuss the kite runner. And if you have any messages that you'd like for us to pass on, we would be happy to be the medium to do so. So maybe the last 5 minutes can be your messages for your counterparts.
Good. Alia, do you want our students to talk or what? Okay, so you want them to talk about the book, right? Before we come to your students, I just want to thank the students from Pakistan for recording these videos. I think it's much more useful than before. I don't know, because of all the internet issues we had. We had many issues. We couldn't really hear them out properly, but this time it was really wonderful. So I'd like to come back to my students if they want to share anything with you. So guys, the floor is yours. Who wants to talk? Yes, Vahida wants to talk about this book and what she learned from this book. So this is it.
Okay, yeah. Before talking about the book, there is a part of the book I would love to read for you. It was my favorite part.
I hope it's true.
Yeah, sure. Um, I'm gonna start. He had the blue kite in his hands. That was the first thing I saw. And I can't lie now and say my eyes didn't scan it for any creeps. His chapan had matte smudges down the front and his shirt was ripped just below the collar. He stopped, swayed on his feet like he was going to collapse. Then he steadied himself, handed me the kite. Where were you? I looked for you, I said, speaking. Those words was like chewing on a rock. Hassan dragged a sleeve across his face, wiped smooth and tears. I waited for him to say something, but we just stood there in silence, in the fading light. I was grateful for the early evening shadows that fell on Hassan's face and concealed mine. I was glad I didn't have to return his gaze. Did he know I knew? And if he knew, well, then what would I see if I did look in his eyes? Blame, indignation, or God forbid, what I feared the most, guiltless devotion. That most of all I couldn't bear to see. And I wanna say something about Khaled Hosseini. He is an artist, Writing itself is an art, I have read four of his books, and I'm a very emotional person. I've cried after reading four of his books, and all of the others can't do that with you. It is an art to touch the pains, and everybody can do that. Literature is itself is an art, but the way someone uses it, the way that Khaled Hosseini touches the paint, the way that he kisses the paint is very artistically, and I know him as an artist. And thank you.
Thank you, Wahida. Wonderful, wonderful, Wahida. Who else wants to share anything? The boys or the girls, anyone? Farishta, I'm sure you want to say something, right? Nothing? What about Yalda? Come on, Yalda. What about Sumaya? Okay, so Sumaya wants to talk, but please talk a little louder because you're a little further away, so they can hear you properly.
Hi, I'm Sumaya. I want to say something about this book. That it was a fantastic for me, and also it was a great book that is taken like the last books. But when I finished this book, I had a question. That's why the author of this book, by the name of Khaled Hosseini, didn't write about any women. He just wrote about all of the maps, and also the another question that why he didn't continue his novels. It means back to come back to America. So what happened after that? It means he called them fathers or mothers or no, or he talked with them. Thanks for me.
So could you get what Sumaya said earlier?
So I got one of her questions. She wanted to know why did he talk about the boys and did not talk about women. I will get to that. What was the second question, please?
So the second question is what happened after Sohrab moved to America? She is curious to know that. So I think we should call Khaled Hosseini and ask him what happened at the end, right? But I think it was a happy ending somehow. So maybe he moved there and started a new life with his mom. I don't know.
Okay, so I will tell you what I know. Khaled Hosseini's second book, A Thousand Splendid Suns, talks about the story of Maryam, which is the story of women. He talks about the plight of women in Afghanistan and the pride and honor and absolute resilience of the Afghan women through the story of Maryam. So I would definitely recommend that the second book that you pick up should be A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I know The Kite Runner is a really, really popular book and I really, really like it. But for me, A Thousand Splendid Suns resonated more. Probably because I'm a woman and I am from the region. I could sympathize, empathize more with the story of Mariam. So I would say, okay, that is the book that you should definitely read. Then there are lots of other books that actually talk about women and their stories in Afghanistan. Another book that comes to my mind is so there is The Booksellers of Kabul, which also talks about the plight of women and actually showcases the trauma and trouble that they're going through. And then there is another book. It's not Another Room, Other Wonders. It's going to come to me. It also talks about women in Afghanistan. Yeah, so even 99 Nights in Logar talks about women because his aunt is a woman. And so there are, but like Thousand Splendid Suns actually focuses the main character in the book. The protagonist is a woman, right? And trying to situate a character in an extremely patriarchal system like Afghanistan at the time of Taliban, and trying to still make the woman a protagonist is a huge ask and a big task. But Khalid Hosseini did it brilliantly. So definitely read that book. And the other question about what happens to Sohrab, right? So, like, I'm sure you must have felt it yourself. There are parts in the book that bring you to tears. I completely agree. A lot of books really, really make me cry, and I don't want to talk about it for days because it's just too much, right? I mean, as human beings, there's only that much of angst or that much of sadness we can take. I mean, our hearts get overwhelmed, especially when the story is very close to home. You know, if it were probably situated in another ethnicity, in another region far from us, it would have it would still have an impact, but maybe not as much, you know. Excuse me. But these books really are a tough read in terms of the questions that arise after you read them, right? So there are parts in the book which made me cry and cry and cry. And there were parts of the book which kind of made me hope. So the thing that I liked the most was the hope. And I wanted that hope to continue. So the open-ended ending of Sorab is that ray of hope. It's that hope which tells us that Sorab was stuck in a really bad place, but he did find some sort of closure, sort of escape in the form of his old friend coming back to rescue him. And we are left with that thought that Sorab went abroad, found his life, found meaning, found hope. And I know as people who live in our country, migrating to another is really not hope. It's it's temporary escapism. The truth is that finding order in our own land is what we truly want, right? I mean, we want to live in our own countries. We don't want to go out in other people's countries and live with their laws and their customs and their people. We want to live in our own, but it's just that our countries sometimes become uninhabitable for us. And it becomes so difficult for us to survive that there is no option but to flee. And that is what happened for most of the people who left Afghanistan during that time. And to think, even for a second, that they did so because they wanted another nationality or they wanted to, um, benefit of the societal or that country's social benefits, it is really a cheap shot, honestly, because it's like you are trying to tell us that we, who had a life, who had an identity, who had a society, had a culture, had a people who were all of us, who looked like us, who talked like us, who were our true brethren, just you know, and suddenly we are amongst all of you who don't look like us, who don't talk like us, who don't wear clothes like us, whose traditions and customs are different and are all alien to us because we've never come across them before. And now suddenly we have to live according to your rules. And we want to do so because we are interested in your social security. That is a really, really simplistic way of defining the trauma of war. And I think that is something that we should always remember, that yes, as a temporary solution, it might be sensible, but as a long term solution, it isn't what we want. I don't want my child to grow up in another country with another tradition and custom. I want her to grow up in a country which belongs to her and whom she belongs to. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I think. I hope that answers your question. Sorry for slightly digressing, but it's very close to home.
Wonderful words. I'd like to add that Murtaza here wants to say something. After Murtaza, I'm going to say also a few words, if that is okay with you, Alia. I think we have time, right?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, so for now, let's hear from Murtaza. Do you know Murtaza? Alia?
Hi.
So, here's Murtaza.
So about the book Karachi, it was really interesting for me because all the senses and all the parts of the book was totally interesting, and it was really directly related to our life and to our country because the characters were Afghans, and the most beautiful part that according to me, that was the part which Amir comes from California in Afghanistan in order to rescue uh, Sohrab. So, if someone just knows the situation of Afghanistan, that there was Taliban and the situation that was really worse, and if anybody wants to just deal with them, it's kind of to put yourself in a very hard and worse situation. So,
And also dangerous, right?
yeah, dangerous. They might kill you or something like that. So again, Amir just came to Afghanistan and to rescue Sohrab. It needs really courage to just come in a situation that you're really you know that it's so dangerous and you might lose your everything and your life. So again, I really like the hope that Amir had, and as a result, he could rescue Sohrab, and they really got life for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Murtaza. Thank you, Murtaza. Alia, can I talk now? Okay, so let's.
I'm giving the mic over to you for a closing. So bye from us in Pakistan, all of you. It has been a pleasure, like always. Cannot wait to discuss more books and broaden our horizons, broaden our way of thinking. Keep doing what you're doing, keep questioning, keep reading, and keep talking.
Thank you. Thank you. Since my students didn't talk very much, at least some of them, I'm going to say some remarks about the book. First of all, I read the book you talked about, A Thousand Splendid Suns. I didn't read Kite Runner, but I saw the movie, and it was a wonderful movie. I think Hormat also mentioned that. But something I learned from Kite Runner was that sometimes as human beings, we do things that we shouldn't do. We do wrong things. Just that's the nature of human beings, and sometimes it's impossible to undo what you do. You can't just go back, and get it back, and undo it. And what some people decide to do instead of that, is they want to do some good to somehow, undo their bad thing. And that is exactly what happens in this story when Amir comes back and he tries to save Sohrab. So somehow he wants to repay, for what he did, as a child. So that's what I wanted to share to you and to our students here in Kabul. So thank you very much, Alia and Hormat. A wonderful session, I think. And thank you for the recommendation of the book, A Thousand Splendid Suns. I'm going to talk about this book once this session is over. I'm going to encourage my students to buy that book. What does Hormat say? A message for the Karachi students. Do you want me to give the message, or do you want my students to give the message?
If it's all right, if you're still here in the space, maybe your students could record WhatsApp messages that you could share with us, that we could share with them.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Hormat, I couldn't get that.
Okay, so basically what I'm saying, Mujtaba, is that you record small messages, really small ones, and send it to us via WhatsApp, and then we can send it to students.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. As I said, my students are shy. Last time I asked for their videos, they thought it was strange, to ask someone's video while they're talking. But I'm going to ask them, to send a friendly message and about their understanding of the book. I'm going to send it to you guys, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, guys. Talk to you soon.
Matt, we didn't hear very much from you. Don't you want to say anything? Yeah, I'm talking to you, Hormat. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I can hear you. There is some internet problem over here, so we keep on skipping sounds from your end. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining in, and we really love the conversations. And I we've been sitting here and we've been nodding our heads the whole hour because you guys had such good insight into both of these books. And please keep on reading. Please keep on being the part of this project. We really love hearing from you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ali, anything else you want to say?
Enjoy your day, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Our students also say goodbye to you.